is definitely favored over Casper in this one, and Casper, I think, is a lot better than Casper is.
Yeah, and one other thing that I want to point out, which is not a storyline that we've been talking about very much, but
Okay, touche. Believe it was Bloodyface graded this deck F- during his interview process.
Which is really funny because the winner of this match goes on to face Bloodyface in the quarterfinals.
Oh, yeah.
So what would be the ultimate justice for that ridiculous, unnecessary BM on this beautiful specimen of a Shaman deck would be if A8 wins this, goes on to face Bloodyface, and just wrecks him.
To be fair, it was I who pressured him to grade the deck lists, and A8's happened to be up first.
Yeah. That's true. So it's your fault.
Yeah, what great justice it would be if A8 had to face me as the winner of this match and then go on to show me up.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Rogue versus Shaman in game number 1. Hunterace's Shaman, on the other hand, is, I would say, somewhat unique compared to the field. It is a control Shaman, but there's quite a few tech inclusions that are in his deck that we don't really see anywhere else. And the thing that stands out to me the most is the 2 copies of Wild Pyromancer, the 2 copies of Mind Control Tech, and the 1 copy of Omega Defender. Oh, and I didn't even mention that there's 2 Twilight Drakes in the deck as well.
Oh, you also forgot the 2 Giggling Inventors.
Oh, yeah. So very unique. And the funny thing about it is, and I have a ton of Hunterace stories. I've traveled a lot this year. So has he. We've met up a few times, gotten to talk to him a bit. Also had him on Talkstone, the podcast that Dan and I have done throughout the year. So I have a ton of Hunterace stories that I'll sprinkle throughout the cast here. But the first one is, when we sat down with the players to interview them before the World Championship took place, Hunterace came in the room. The first question we asked him was, how did you come up with your Shaman list? And most of the time when we ask players, they're like, well, I practiced with this guy. He came up with the idea, and we refined it, played a lot of games, and ultimately set it on this list. Very simple explanation. Hunterace went back and talked about every single moment that they decided on every single tech card. He took 15 minutes to answer 1 question about the Shaman deck.
He also thoroughly explained the cards that were not included, but they had tried.
It was a very thorough explanation.
And you can tell by the intense look on his face that thorough is pretty much just what he's about when it comes to Hearthstone. You know,
Yeah.
TJ had mentioned that, he's seen Hunterace a lot and he's got a lot of stories with him. Throughout the entirety of the year, Hunterace, just tour stop after tour stop, was the most dominant player in the world, without a question. He was the #1 points earner and just had such a fantastic performance very consistently throughout the course of that. And, that consistency may be a bit overshadowed here by the fact that this giant Edwin Van Cleave is coming down here on turn 2. But yesterday, when Hunterace took his loss to move to this 1-1 score in this decider match to get out of group, he did not look happy about it.
No.
And I can guarantee you he went right to work trying to figure out how he's going to attempt to dismantle this lineup from A8.
Well, big problem that I see in another Hunterace story, right before his match against A8, I went backstage, and Hunterace had his tablet out, and he was staring at A8's deck list. And he came up to me, of all people, and said, hey, TJ, do you have any secret advice on beating A8's lineup?
He asked me the same question, too.
So I don't know if he has any idea. If he's going to me and Admirable for advice, he's doomed.
That's bad news. I've gone to me for advice before, and it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right now, what secret advice could you tell him to deal with an 8-8 Van Cleef on turn 2?
I would tell him have your rogue opponent's hand be full of nothing but 4-mana cards on their 3-mana turn.
And then draw Hex on turn 4.
That's part of the equation. Yeah, there's an Earthshock in here as well.
Yep.
2 copies of Hex, but that's an 8-point attack that just happened. Something that's a really big kicker to this game, though, is the fact that Hunterace got Hagatha from Farsight. And so he's about to suffer heaps of damage. But the Hagatha coming down way earlier than A8 can realistically anticipate means that a lot of his development could get counteracted here. And what I'm thinking almost specifically is in a waggle pick Dread Corsair situation. you suddenly lose a lot of board presence because of that. I'm just curious if Hunterace is going to have the time.
The problem is, at that point, he will have taken 24 damage from Edwin Van Cleef, as well as 4 damage from the Waggle Pick, with 4 more showing.
It's a lot of damage.
This kills the Casper.
Yeah. I mean, you see the change from Giggling Inventor of the days of yore, from 5 mana to 7 mana. If that was a 5 mana Giggling Inventor, I think Hunterace had a very realistic chance here. The fact that it's 7 instead, I think puts him in a fairly troubled spot, and he's going to need something to get out of this. Does have Ziliax to provide a reprieve, perhaps, but I think he's going to need something real quick, or this game's done.
Well, if he plays Haggith the next turn, he's still going to take a ton of damage, but then he can follow up with Ziliax into Giggling Adventure.
So the fact that Hunterace has seen this first leads me to believe that Ziliax is probably going to be an option for him more so than the Hagatha would be. However, if you play the Hagatha first, what that means is the Ziliax provides you with a spell.
Yeah.
And if that spell is Earthshock, that's a game changer.
Or Lightning Bolt. Or Totemic Smash. All of those would deal with the Edwin Van Cleef the same turn that he would play Ziliax.
He's not going to let this Twilight Drake do anything. And that means 9 damage is coming across his turn. Hunterace to just 12 points of life. Acidic Swampu's drawn. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
The problem is, I don't know if he has time.
I think he just might now. Playing the Hagatha is going to risk a death, but it requires quite the hand from Hunterace. I'm sorry, from A8 for him to actually die. It would need to be a prep and eviscerate. So what that means is Hagatha comes down here. It sets the Edwin to 5 attack.
5 health.
I'm sorry, yeah, 5 health. And you move from there. You know, the big issue with the Hagatha this turn is that A8 has yet to use Waggle Pick, and the Dread Corsairs are there. That's something Hunterace knows is possible because of the raiding party. So I think when you really break it down, Ziliax is probably one of the directions you move towards, but that opens you to backstab. A8 doesn't have backstab, though. Doesn't have SI7 agent. And what that means is that an attack has to go through this Ziliax. So the Ziliax, without a draw that kills it, it's a lot more HP. That has to be an attack to kill it now.
Yeah, and the Underbelly Fence does deal with it. The problem is he has no mana to play anything but Raiding Party. And the problem with that is his Raiding Party is much less value. He's already drawn both Waggle Picks.
This is a definite Waggle Pick turn from A8 here. It's the Waggle Pick. It's both Dread Corsairs. You smack the Ziliax with your Waggle Pick. You attack face for 8. You set him to 10, and you got tons represented. It's going to deviate, though. I'm quite surprised by this. I think A8's reasoning here is that A, this is mana efficient, and that B, he doesn't want the Edwin Van Cleef to get bounced back to hand and be in a bad spot. If A8 had gone for that Waggle Pick turn as well, much more vulnerable to Hagatha. That, I'm actually curious if A8 considered even, maybe Hagatha's off that far side. If it is, I want these Dread Corsairs for afterwards. That could be an active thought. I think that's unlikely, but I think it's possible.
I don't know if that one's likely. I think the one that could be likely is playing around the double ooze in Hunterace's deck. That is almost certainly a keep from Hunterace's side. He doesn't want this Edwin Van Cleef to be brought back to the hand.
Giggling Inventor, a little bit more checked when the backstab's there if the Waggle Pick's online and you have Unleash the Beast in hand. I mean, this is a lot of attacks that A8 can develop this turn, but there's some stuff on his side to think about. You know, Hagatha's scheme, one of the first ones that comes to your mind. Mind Control, Lightning Storm is going to be on your mind there. A crazy Wild Pyromancer turn. A8 has to think about what the hand range from Hunterace feels like, and oftentimes it's going to feel like something where it is, expensive cards and situational cards. But that could just as easily, I think, be Hagatha's scheme instead.
All right, well, now's the turn to go in, and I just honestly don't think Hunterace has a way out of this.
I disagree. I think it takes a great deal of fortune, but I think it's possible.
What is the ultimate scenario?
Here, it's probably that you get a Witch's Brew from the Acidic Swamp Ooze, or it's the Giggling Inventor and hope your opponent doesn't have an extra attack activation. So both of those things are extremely unlikely. But Lightning Storm rolls high, Ooze does something, you have a chance. Giggling Inventor, he could also, could he snag Ancestral Healing here and block an attack? I don't think so, because A8 has access to 6 attack mechanisms. So Hunterace is beaten in this one, and it's an extreme long shot for him to win in that scenario. Edwin Van Cleef, just too much.
Yep.
Game 1 over to A8. I'd say not a super unexpected result, but certainly not the one that Hunterace was looking for. I think Rogue is, especially Burgle Rogue, is one that can stop Edwin Van Cleef from reigning in terror. We got a Shaman matchup coming on both sides. However, we described A8 Shaman, and now you get to take a closer gander at it. I feel like this deck was interpreted initially as an aggro deck, by myself included. I was very vehement about defending my principle of it. I still somewhat agree with it. However, the big story of A8's Shaman deck is that it's a deck of timing your pressure. It's not about just playing minions on curve and hoping that works out. Sometimes you have to do that. The big deal about it is getting the timing of pressure in there. He's got 2 copies of Soul of the Murloc in this deck to try to help secure a board position in the face of one single board clear.
Yep.
He's got Thunderhead to develop those boards. He's got Storm Chaser to fetch up Bloodlust in the matchup. And at the top end, Cairn, Rain of Toads, Swamp Queen Hagatha, and a pair of Sea Giants for if you secure a board as ways to get payoffs. It's meant to operate like picture a weaker Rogue deck. That's kind of what it's going for.
Yeah, it's basically like putting a second Rogue deck in your lineup that's just slightly weaker.
Well, I'd say considerably weaker.
Okay.
But, you know, the idea is operate like Rogue. You know, instead of Edwin Van Cleef, you have like Sea Giant, for instance. You got to get a bunch of minions and play with Thunderhead.
And one of the most memorable matchups so far of the tournament for me has been the A8 versus Just Saiyan matchup, where A8 went to Fatigue, saved his Bloodlust for a really long time, and was able to grind Saiyan out of resources and kill him with just 1 health remaining. And Hunterace's lists are a little bit different than Saiyan's. He's got a little bit more top end with Shudderwalk, with Swamp Queen Hagatha. He's got more minions, but he doesn't have access to as many control tools. He has 1 Lightning Storm. He has no Thunderheads, no Voltaic Burst, no Zaps. So his ability to kind of fight for boards in the mid game, I wouldn't say is worse. It's just different.
It's very different. And I think one of the biggest differences I'm looking at personally is the fact that the Shudderwalk's at the top end. You know, Shudderwalk with Giggling Inventor attached to it, it's a very different kind of feeling where you end up in situations oftentimes where Shudderwalk just providing 2 more Annoyatrons and then having some secondary effect is enough to get something done. And so for A8, you know, his hand so far has looked fantastic. He picked up the Unbound Elemental to threaten to buff anytime he plays cards here. He's got the Thunderhead. But again, the real story is timing of pressure. Where does that timing come in, and how do you get it done? You know, I think Swamp Queen Hagatha, looking at A8's hand right now, is going to play a key role if he's going to win this game.
Shall we make a storm?
He's kind of playing out stuff right now.
Yeah, it's a really tough matchup, I think, from A8's side, because there's just a lot of guesswork to be done. And on Hunterace's side, there's just a lot of things to account for. And the 2 of those things stacked side by side is going to lead players to a lot of unfamiliar territory where they're going to try to avoid risks, I would say, until things, you know, start to feel like they're slipping away. And the sooner you notice that, the better. You know, if you get to that risk point, it's too late, that's not going to work. If you take the risk too early and you weren't behind, that's a disastrous call.
I wonder.
The setup of the Thunderhead also does make Sea Giant a very potential threat coming down next turn with Zap, Sludge Slurper.
There is little time.
If Hunterace plays pretty much anything, Sea Giant is a real possibility.
Which I don't think that he's unhappy with. I actually think that you would like to see Sea Giant when you're not under as much pressure, like when your health total isn't at a critical point. When the Sea Giant comes down, your health total is at a critical point, that means 4 mana is occupied by Hex a lot of times.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you're like, oh, I don't really have enough mana to take care of the rest of this. And from A8's side, it's basically that exact same style of story where if you play Sea Giant and Hunterace isn't under pressure, he gets a free attempt at mind control, perhaps.
I wonder.
Mind control tech active. Sea Giant costs a measly 3 mana right now. This allows a zap to take place.
Zap and the Kobold Lackey actually just deals with this completely.
Right. 5 minions on board. 3 of them are pretty primed. You got some pressure down on Hunterace. He's going to be put to a test here. Oh, look at that. Interesting. I quite like that attack.
Huh.
Overloads on turn 5 as well for A8, so going into 6 mana. He has got plays for it, and then rolls right into Swamp Queen Agatha. Good mana management.
Agatha's Scheme was in the opening hand, so it's at 4 right now. I believe it'll be at 5 at the end of this turn. Oh, it's at 5 now.
If it's there on turn 1, it activates immediately.
Oh, yeah. If he...
So on turn 1, it goes to 2.
Yeah.
On turn 2, it goes to 3.
Yep.
And that's what I mean by the Sea Giant coming down too early. Hunterace knows that Bloodlust is the colossal killer, but A8's on 4 mana. He's free to Hex in this spot.
Yep.
The timing of pressure means that A8 does not have a lethal blow this turn.
Yeah, and has the ability to roll into Agatha's Scheme, would clear up this board. Could also, if he draws a smaller spell, maybe Lightning Storm, could go for Wild Pyromancer, Acolyte of Pain plus a spell. But it'll probably just be a Agatha's Scheme to clear things off here.
Scheme and likely an Acolyte of Pain. Such a weird card. Omega Defender.
It is.
He just wanted something that could, like, block some damage early on, but in the late game, he's like, oh, it's got 12 attack. Sweet. I've never seen anybody actually put that card in a deck.
Well, the thing about it is he basically looked and said, what cards make my Shudderwalk the nuts?
Yep.
Omega Defender plus Twilight Drake plus Giggling Inventor. That Shudderwalk, when it's played after all those Battlecry minions have been played, is beefed. Sup, plus 10 attack. Health for all the cards in my hand. Summon 2 Annoyaltrons.
What's up, Swamp Queen Agatha?
What's up, Carne Asada?
I get it. Because there's an E on the end of Cairn.
Inflection point.
From wither vows, hear my plea. These cursed spells
Whoa.
I give to thee.
Stormbringer Rainatoads.
Would it cast in that order?
No, it wouldn't. I think it has to be the other way around.
Okay. Well, I'm curious what A8 actually took in that scenario. We'll get a glimpse at it soon. This is a kind of a weird one. Swamp Queen Agatha is one of my favorite cards because it just does one of the most unusual things that I can imagine in Hearthstone. Teach a minion 2 spell. I was like, what does that mean? Like, picture trying to do that in a physical card game. Like, you have your box of cards off to the side.
Stormbringer and Lightning Bolt.
Just imagine it. You have like your box of cards off the side. You got to teach 2 spells. You have to pick up all the cards from the box and go look through them, and then figure out which windows of opportunity you get to actually discover the.
And then
It's
get
like
out
12 minutes of work to teach it 2 spells.
and then get out your super glue and super glue the cards to the minion that you taught the
Like,
spells
at that
to.
point, you might as well just be actually teaching a seminar.
Yeah.
Here, boom, boom, done.
What does that even mean?
Just happens for you.
Oh, you're talking about the Swamp King hack
Yeah.
token. I thought you were talking about the game.
I am talking about the game.
No,
Thanks,
but-
Hearthstone.
But this turn,
Oh. Well, last turn.
it's like there's no way he has lethal. He doesn't even have any damage.
That's going to do it. Interesting turn here for A8, though. My head initially goes towards like a Thunderhead Feral Spirit kind of turn. But I'll tell you what, this is right into the dreaded turn 8 from Hunterace. And I'm certain A8's thinking about Hagatha.
Oh, Stormbringer. Oh, my goodness.
Gets a lightning bolt with it as well.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh my, look at Hunterace's face. His eyes were open. So, we have Mind Control Tech, we have Annoyatron. With the Giggling Inventors, there's still possibility Hunterace can get something done here. You know, all the steals on board right now are pretty good. The issue is that Hunterace is at 14. That's a problem.
I don't even know what's the best steal here. Illidan?
It's almost certainly Illidan. It's Ziliax. So is there any funny business now with the Ziliax?
He can hex and trade.
You hex the Illidan, right?
The beast is the most attack. Your life total matters.
I want to kill the beast, though. I want the 3/3.
Yeah, but are you going to do that?
Yeah. It's a true story. You have a Wild Pyromancer in hand, you have a Hagatha in hand. What do the 2 ones actually mean? I think you're right. I think it is Hex the Beast. Or Giggling Inventor. I think Giggling Inventor is a reasonable compromise as well. You have 5 attacks worth of taunts in the way. You have 1 of them refunding 3 health. It would take a disaster to die right now. It would take almost specifically, I think, Thunderhead Lightning Storm. But I don't even know if that works perfectly because the Illidan's going to generate first. So the Thunderhead would make a 2-1, put you at 5 spots on board.
Yeah.
And then the Thunderstorm, or the Lightning Storm rather, would put you at 6 minions on board, summon 1/1/1. So you would be able to get through, in that instance, 16 points of damage. So that actually would have been lethal. But there's only 1 copy of Lightning Storm in A8's deck.
And he doesn't have it in. The Thunderhead also makes it kind of weird because, again, none of these minions can die from trades. The Illidan happens first before the Thunderhead, I believe.
The Illidan will activate first because of order of operation.
So Hunterace got some time to spare here. But honestly, this wasn't even many resources from A8 to make this large of a board.
That's a true story, but I think for Hunterace, it's more about the time than it is about the resource battle. I think for Hunterace, it's about getting past that initial hump. And if you manage to do that, things are looking good for you.
Yeah.
The issue here is that A8 was patient. He didn't go overboard with this, and that's starting to put compounding pressure now back onto Hunterace. He has to make something happen this turn, and there's 2 taunts in the way. This is just a tough situation. My head moves towards Wild Pyromancer. What can happen with that?
So Wild Pyromancer, you trade the 2/1 into the Feral Spirit. You hex the Nazari.
I'm thinking
Then the Earthshock goes over the Beast
why would you silence that?
to get rid of 9 damage.
Well, put the Mind Control Tech into it then.
Well, the Mind Control Tech is going into the Illidan.
Is it? You have a Hagatha.
That's true.
That's what I mean. Like, this is a really difficult puzzle to solve. Oh my. So Hagatha would allow him to use either the Urshock or the Annoyatron to clear this off. What are you hoping to Urshock then? That's 13 right there, 6 from Bloodlust, that'd be 19, just out of range. So Hunterace is going to hang on to the Urshock for the Wild Pyromancer turn, I imagine.
Problem is, he's just taking so much damage.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of damage. He needs help. It's there though. I mean, there are things that help. I'm looking at a Shutter Walk being a big deal. I'm looking at Walking Fountain being a big deal. Heck, even a Witch's Brew is a pretty big deal, I think.
Just buy more time to get those other couple cards that you talked about. He only has 1 copy of Witch's Brew in the deck. And there are, I'd say, a substantial amount of dead draws.
Twilight Drake's definitely one of them.
Ancestral Healing.
Ancestral Healing I don't think is dead. I think Ancestral Healing could be good because the Wild Pyromancer gets an extra activation that way. Hagatha's Scheme,
that's dead.
Oh boy, this is tough. Oh, wow. Okay, so now a Hex onto Cairn. 1 damage to board. You Ancestral Healing the Pyromancer, another damage to board. You Urshock the Nozari. That's another damage to board. That wipes out the beast. Nozari's at 2 health. And you have a little bit of mana left. So the question is, can Acidic Swamp Ooze change that texture in a way that perhaps a different sequence happens?
I don't think you're getting better than a Hex.
Hunterace wants to see if there's a spell that can improve this. He's much less concerned with the body on board. Stormbringer's irrelevant. This is a tough situation. Hunterace wants to hang on to this Ancestral Healing to see if he can use that on just a big minion. So that's why he's going to go for the Urshock here to wipe out the beast. And then Ancestral Healing to try to buy the extra life total instead. So he's using that effectively as a heal for 3. Or an attempt at that at least. Or for 4, excuse me. And A8's certainly interested in making a push here.
Honestly, now the outs are becoming even more slim for Hunterace just because his life total is going to be even lower.
It's a true story, but he's got a Hagatha's Scheme cranking. So if he could manage to hang on for another turn, like maybe 1 more turn, he might get into the clear.
So Shutter Walk, Walking Fountain, Witch's Brew. Those are the 3 cards he's looking for.
Even a Giggling Inventor, I think, could be a reasonable pickup at this point.
Also, his own Ziliax.
Oh, that's right. That Ziliax was from the Mind Control deck steal.
He Mind Control tech that Ziliax. So
you know, even Lightning Storm is not that bad of a pickup because you have a Hagatha's Scheme sitting at 2. So a Lightning Storm, you know, it can make some fireworks happen. This is a big deal, though. Look at Hunterace. He is hoping for good fortune here.
I mean, at this point, Shutterwalk...
Nozari gets a heal.
Shutterwalk I don't even think is enough.
Swamp Queen Hagatha's not good.
Acidic Swamp Ooze into a high-rolled Lightning
You're
Storm.
going to have to brew up something with this Witch's Cauldron pot that Hagatha's brewing with. Because the cards right now are not good enough.
Perplexing.
It looks like he's only out his Lightning Storm and high-roll every minion. And then Hagatha's Scheme. Fills up his 10 mana perfectly. If he doesn't get it, he could Stormbringer for the memes.
Urshock. Not good.
He's dead. Not a single legendary that saves him.
A path dimly.
Can you think of one?
Not with a Hex in hand for A8.
From his perspective.
Oh.
Must decide.
There's got to be some big dumb taunt that works, right?
Are there any big dumb taunt legendaries?
There's always some legendary that does what you want it to do.
Archvillain Rafam. That's a big dumb taunt.
Kalagos is not. 2-0 to A8 right now. And the deck, it felt like the second one was winnable in some capacity. I don't know exactly how, but it felt like it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what he could have done differently to create a different circumstance. I mean, you could talk for hours about that game. And Hunterace, we're back in right now. You know, it's important to note, this is actually the first tournament that Hunterace has played on a giant main stage like this. He's had a lot of tour stop experience, but this is the first championship event.
It's the first championship event, but he did play on this exact stage in December. So
you think All-Stars held the same weight as the World Championships does?
It didn't hold the same weight, but it was the same type of environment, but not as prestigious, I will agree. But
you know,
you're right.
The stakes at that tournament were, you win it or you lose it. You know, that's a lot at stake. But this was the whole year's work for Hunterace.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious how much that's weighing on him right now. I mean, he's not shied away from showing any amount of emotion. And whether or not that's affecting his play, I'm not going to speculate it's affecting his play, because I don't think it is. I think he's playing pretty well with what he's been dealt. I think, though, that it's just clearly weighing on it. To me, it's an interesting thing to watch. As much as I don't want to necessarily watch that, I can't help but think what's going through Hunterace's mind right now.
Yeah. Well, while we have probably the slowest part of this match we're going to get, I'm going to tell one story. And I'm going to call this story Hunterace's Day at Blizzard. So Hunterace was, we invited him to be on the podcast Talkstone that Froden and I do, that we've done for the past year. And he arrives at the Blizzard campus, and I escorted him on. The first thing he does is he says, "Hey, TJ, can I get a hot chocolate?"
Oh, another 5-cost Hagatha. So he asked for a hot chocolate.
He asked for a hot chocolate, so I got him a hot chocolate. We bring him up to the recording room. The first thing he does, he walks in the recording room. Before I can even tell him what he's supposed to do or where he's supposed to go, he goes to the couch that we have in the room, takes off his shoes, lays down on the couch, and queues up a game at rank 2 with Togwaggle Druid. That's Hunterace in a nutshell. He's just aloof, and the only thing he cares about is Hearthstone and sweets.
Well, I'll tell you what's not aloof. It's what Hunterace just did this turn with that Hagatha. So do you recall back to the first game when he got that Acolyte of Pain, and he contemplated playing it, and then eventually he did? When he drew the Hagatha here, he waited for a moment, he hovered the Hagatha, he thought for another moment, and he passed the turn. He is really trying to send A8 the message that that's a playable card right now.
The problem is,
there's a lot of cards you wouldn't play in this situation.
There are a ton of playable cards that are all reasonable in this situation.
He's trying to send the message that it's not like what it is, and you can see Hunterace here praying, please no Grim Rally. Hunterace is like 1 or 2 turns away from getting into this game and perhaps getting a stranglehold on it afterwards. And so Hunterace, I think, is going to look to just avoid any sort of death this turn. And if that means expending 2 copies of Ancestral Healing to taunt up your totem and your mind control tech or whatever you steal, whatever he uses this turn, I believe it is calculated maximally to just simply not die.
And I honestly think that your play is the best. Protect your life total at all costs. Mind control tech, take the damage off the board. Doesn't matter if you're going to kill it next turn. Take it off the board. Ancestral Healing, at least the mind control tech, to block any little point of damage.
You've got Celiax, you have Hagatha Scheme, you have Walking Fountain. It is unthinkable to me that if Hunterace gets to 1 single safe turn past that Hagatha, that he is almost as in the clear as you can imagine.
And the way that he gets to 1 single safe turn is by just playing everything he possibly can.
His face has turned red just from the start of this turn to now. Taunt the totem. No mind control tech. And the reason he doesn't mind control tech is because this technically does the same thing, except he gets to save the mind control tech and the Ancestral Healing here. If Grim Rally were to come down, what that means is A8 would have the same number of attacks next turn. The difference is there'd be a 3/3 taunt in the way. That's about the only difference. And here, he's just trying to hold on to it to compensate for that. So
what about the totem roll?
The totem roll could be a 1/1. And maybe that changes something, like Abusive Sergeant gets to come down or what have you. I don't know what he's calculated exactly. What I do know is that look at the sigh of relief as he's going to head into a Hagatha turn. He's going to go to 19. There's an Argent Squire, and he's got a Ziliax, a Hagatha's Scheme, and a Mind Control tech in hand with a Walking Fountain approaching with an Ancestral Healing to heal up the Walking Fountain. I can't imagine Hunterace losing from this spot. That seems ridiculous. And so for A8 last turn, you know, I think about Solarium. It could have been a big waste last turn, but could he have found a Grim Rally or perhaps 2 Grim Rallies and maybe ended the game that turn? That's the only thing I think about.
So I did the damage. With Grim Rally, he would have had 16 points of damage. And Hunterace was at 22.
So if he Solarium into Grim Rally, would that have been enough? Because you could Grim Rally one of the minions, you play an Abusive Sergeant, you Grim Rally again.
Yeah, it would have been, even without Abusive Sergeant, it would have been, he would have had 5 extra points of damage because he would have had to kill 2 minions on the first Grim Rally. So it would have been, no, it would have been 21. So he would have needed 1 extra point.
Because he's going to have 6 minions on board.
He had 7 minions on board.
So you Grim Rally.
And that was 16. I did that math. So you take 1 more minion off the board, so you have 5, so it's 21.
And then Abusive Sergeant make it 23. And 3 of the damage gets absorbed by the Healing Totem. So
no, it wouldn't have been enough.
There you go. Could the pressure from that have been enough, though? But I tell you what, this certainly isn't going to be enough. Hunterace is going to chew through these next couple boards like it's nothing. And add Giggling Adventure to that one, I think Hunterace is in the clear. If he loses this game, I might eat his deck list. You hear that? That's the deck list. Not the series, this game.
Well, if he loses this game, he loses the series.
Right, but if he wins this game and loses the series, I don't want to eat the deck list then.
We might need it. Just Hunterace's posture has changed completely.
Oh, well, I mean, I believe that he knows.
He was fully tensed up on that turn 4. Still not completely relaxed, but in a much better position.
The thing about it is in these tournament matches of Hearthstone, when I've seen Hunterace, relax is never really the word I get. It's either like fretful or not. The rest of the time, he's just quite animated. He's getting in the zone and just trying to let himself take over at that point.
Yeah.
Use the strength of your intuition. Think about the scenarios. Play the best Hearthstone you can. That means be animated and let some of that stress go, so be it.
Just don't punch anything.
Prove your worth, curse. Prove your worth, curse.
He's just saving up a ton of burst.
Yeah, that's smart.
And that is a ton of burst.
The thing for Hunterace to really think about, in my opinion, is going to be a Magic Carpet turn and how that interacts with stuff like Giggling Inventor. I think that could be the one dangerous spot that Hunterace gets into this game. I think if I'm in Hunterace's spot, I'm looking at Ziliax and I'm like, this is nice and safe. I get an extra taunt from this. I'm not going to die in this spot. This might be better later on, but I'll tell you what, it's really good right now.
Blazing Invocation? With Wild Pyromancer and Ancestral Healing in hand, I'm inclined to hold on to that.
Absolutely.
Because that's just another board clear.
I must decide.
These provide 0-3 taunts on death. Good news for Hunterace. More health equals more time equals more win.
Sea Giant picked up, which is a great draw for A8 with how his hand is.
Yeah, and that can help fend off a Walking Fountain turn.
Yeah, but the problem is Hunterace has the answer. He's got Wild Pyromancer, Hex, Ancestral Healing, Blazing Invocation.
So many.
That deals with a board
yeah.
of even 3 health minions across the board plus a Sea Giant.
Yeah, and so for A8, he knows that time is running out, and I think it's largely because of the Zilliax.
Yeah.
And he's just going to go in as a result. I don't blame him.
Double time and double
Zilliax changes the landscapes of so many of these aggro games, and when your opponent has Hagatha cranking, they have a boatload of gas at the top end.
Yeah. And honestly, by every criteria imaginable, this is a very good turn for A8. Unfortunately, it just feels like it's not enough.
This was the deck building process for Hunterace too. This was the situation he was trying to get to in these processes. It's have enough to get through the early game and then have a stranglehold afterwards. Looking at A8's Zoo Warlock deck, there's no Leroy in this one. 2 Salt Fires. That's the only immediacy of damage, aside from Lackey generation, that he's going to have without board presence.
A path dimly lit. Do you like to play with fire?
Ooh, another Blazing Invocation.
Yeah, it's just you clear board, you clear board, you clear board. Eventually, they ran out of stuff. And that's step 1. Gonna leave the Taskmaster up.
I don't think it matters.
Well, that was taken awfully quick.
If he didn't have enough already.
Back-to-back carpets. I imagine that A8's pretty interested in playing those. And look at what the Discover provided for Hunterace.
Walking Fountain to do with 2 medium-sized things. Hagatha's Scheme to do with a lot of small things. Mind Control Tech to deal with 3 small things and 1 big thing. And Mossy Horror to just deal with everything else.
Upgrading the carpet? Ah.
Funnily enough, that's currently the only minion that does not... Oh no, it would die. The Mossy Horror. It had the Abusive Sergeant attack onto it.
Bye-bye board.
Yep.
engaging TC-130 into dislocator.
Saw a look from A8. It's like, I guess I'll keep playing.
Yeah. Maybe he makes a mistake. Maybe he Stormbringer's 5 minions and gets all Baron Geddons, and then I top deck double Soulfire.
Then again, maybe not.
Even that won't do
Yeah.
it.
We're going to game number 4. When you Farsight a Hagatha, it might be dominant deck.
Couple problems I see with the deck list, though, Admirable.
What's that?
There are no Fan of Knives.
Ooh.
It is very difficult for Hunterace to continually pick apart board states. I'm looking at a couple key cards here. Backstab, SI7 Agent, Evil Miscreant.
I was looking at this hand, and I'm curious. You know,
What are you curious about?
well, I feel like Vendetta is the reason you play this deck. So he's got Hench Clan Burglar, he's got Vendetta. As much as I don't...
And a backstab.
Wow. I was going to mention the Eviscerate because of this. So, Eviscerate's not a pretty looking card when you have to just use it as a 2-mana card and hit a minion with it. But I'll tell you what, when you have Hench Clan Burglar and Vendetta, the appeal of keeping an Eviscerate, to me at least, does seem a little bit better. Now, That being said, you want to find your key cards. You want to find Evil Miscreants. You want to find Raiding Party. You want to have Underbelly Fence because you have the Hench Clan Burglar in play. There's a lot of cards that are very strong in the deck. But if my main goal is just to not die and have the big tempo swing from Burglar Vendetta, I contemplate keeping an Eviscerate in that spot. And with 2 preps in hand, Hunterace doesn't feel like he needs to hang on to this backstab. Just kill this minion, make a dagger. Hope you can deal with the next thing that happens.
The problem with trying to just survive is that, unlike the Shaman versus Warlock, you don't just have pretty much a guaranteed win in the later stages of the game. You got to kill him.
Yeah, I think the amount of value that Hunterace picks up with Hench Clan Burglar is quite important. And the tempo swing from the Vendetta threatens to get more value because then the Hench Clan Burglar can pick apart border, it can start attacking face.
Yeah.
A8 in this position, when he sees the turn 2 backstab and then the dagger up, and he saw a 2 keep from Hunterace's side, he's got to think, what is this hand right now? If my opponent had Edwin Van Cleef, would they backstab right now? Probably not. So I'm going to rule that out. If they had Evil Miscreant in hand, does that mean they have another thing to play? Perhaps. Would they have kept Blink Fox Underbelly Fence? Maybe. That's going to get ruled out.
Yep.
So then what are those cards?
Hench Clan Vendetta.
You can pretty much start to narrow it down.
Hunterace's hand, while it looks poor this turn, there are a lot of draws that make this hand insane.
Well, Tempo Sergeant. Direwolf Alpha is going to temporarily unnerf it. Back to 2-1.
The good old days.
Leroy drawing. So Leroy Shadow Step now available. This pickup from Hench Clan Burglar is going to be really important. Baited Arrow sounds great to me.
Blazing Invocation, while at first glance it may seem good, but keep in mind, combo cards are not Battlecry cards. And a lot of the strong cards are combo cards. Talking about Evil Miscreant. Could pick up Hench Clan Burglar from that.
Well, I'll tell you what,
yikes.
Sea Giants do a pretty bad job at fighting against rogues, since one of their main goals is typically to eliminate your board turn after turn. And so A8 is now faced with the decision of Soulfire, of how to Solarium, Scarabag, or Life Tap. This is the critical turn of the game for A8 right here. This one turn has to be calculated perfectly because there are so many draw variations that change the landscape of this. If you draw a bunch of cheap minions in a row, you're going to look down at that Solarium and go, maybe I should have done that.
Sea Giant pitched.
Nice pitch away for A8. That's the better one to get rid of.
Yeah.
But now this Baited Arrow is going to do some work for Hunterace. And honestly, it's to the point where he needs to consider the preparation, the Baited Arrow, and the SI7 agent, start working on the 1/1s. Maybe even just go face with the SI7 agent.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you got a Shadow Step
SI7
Leroy.
agent.
It's giddy up time.
Attack with the dagger.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
It's giddy up time. I actually think that I was foolish to initially consider attacking the egg. I think this should go face, and you should start pressing the issue. You are 3 turns away from lethal represented damage on Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, I mean, you have to force A8 to have an activator for this Scarabag. And then he's got to deal with your stuff. I don't know about this.
Hunterace, he's typically shown that he's very willing to try to restrict options as much as possible. And I don't blame him. If Knife Juggler and a bunch of shenanigans happen with that egg, you may regret it later on.
All right, well, let's say Evil Genius is picked up here, then he made the right decision.
Bunch of 1s. So now, the Soulfire comes into mind. I don't think you necessarily need to Juggler this turn, but you probably want to. The fact that Hunterace popped this egg, what that means is A8 has a guaranteed kill on the Devilsaur if he wants it. Had you not done that, that 5 damage plus the hit from the dagger really starts cutting into that life tap. It starts to add pressure to A8 because you have Leroy and Shadow Step. That's the one question mark I have about playing to a restrictive measure.
So the way I looked at it was basically just the damage breakpoint. Now, granted, it's going to be life tapping, but you put him down to 22, you push 8 the next turn, down to 14. That's 1 dagger up, and then Leroy, Shadow Step Leroy is enough.
Just a 2-3. And once you committed to the restrictive measure, when do you turn back? You also have Shadow Step for the SI7 agent, which could provide 2 additional damage if you needed to turn sooner. What's the Leroy breakpoint look like? You could drop A8 to 16 just with your attacks.
Then you need 1 minion to connect.
Yeah, you're adding a 2-3. You still got the dagger.
He's most likely going to tap. And from A8's side, he's got 4 damage showing. He's got Soulfire in hand, so Hunterace
Oh, boy.
is effectively at 9.
Well, here we go. Dagger minions or dagger face. Looks like an easy call for Hunterace.
So this is a lethal setup. If A8 were to not deal with any of these minions. There's 10 damage showing, Leroy from hand, plus a dagger up, no Shadow Step necessary.
Oh, that's a bad draw right now.
Yeah.
That's going to be Soulfire food.
Put this apple on your head.
These tempo versus aggro matchups are tense.
When they mean this much, they certainly are. You know, when
Like-
this is game 1 of the series, it's like, I feel like it's a lot less tense. But when you're talking match point versus the #1 points earner in the world for your tournament life. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's certainly
So now
not going to
Hunterace
end up well.
has guaranteed, unless this juggle
Juggle has to hit a minion here.
has to hit the
Has to hit a minion. Doesn't hit a
Didn't.
minion. Hunterace with the Leroy from hand, with the 5 on board, with the 1 from the dagger, sends it to game number 5. Only 1 slot there too, so you don't even have to worry about the juggler Leroy.
That could have been a big deal too.
I wasn't even thinking about
the Knight
that.
Juggler on the other side of the board, since you summon 2 minions for your opponent, it could snipe the Leroy Jenkins. Very low odds in that case since he has 2 other minions.
Is
but
A8 supposed to trip?
bizarre scenario. I don't even know if it crossed either player's mind. But
Either way,
Hunterace saving the toughest one for last, I believe.
indeed.
And the Hench Clan sneak.
I'm a believer in the Hench Clan
Oh
sneak.
boy. What? Look at that hand.
Both hands are good. Buckle in. This one might not take long. Hunterace on the Summoner Mage. He's teched in 2 copies of Rabble Bouncer. He's got a Mossy Harbour in here.
All right, well, that's not good.
The
but
2
the
Mind
rest of
Control
it
techs.
is great.
He's looking for a Conjurer's Calling right now. Conjurer's Calling and Khadgar. If Hunterace draws both of those cards, he's going to have a very reasonable time of winning this game. One of the coolest interactions of this deck, it was the very first game I played after Hunterace talked to me about it. I played Hench Clan Sneak on 3, and then on turn 4, I attacked a minion. I coined out Khadgar. Conjurer's Calling the Hench Clan Sneak, got 4 3-cost minions, and my opponent conceded. And it was against Soup.
That sounds fun.
It was awesome. I immediately put in a second Hench Clan Sneak.
I mean, honestly, right now, with this hand, does he even need Conjurer's Calling? He's got the biggest swing turns you could possibly ever imagine.
He's got a lot loaded up here that's going to be able to get some work done, and so he'll suffer some damage in the meantime. The scary thought for Hunterace is going to be Sea Giant this game. You know, we've seen it be low impact in the rest of them. You might be wondering, why is this card in here? The reason is matchups like this, where, you know, wide board states are common because of the way that the minions battle back and forth. And honestly, I just realized the interaction with Saronite Taskmaster and Sea Giant. It means as they kill your minions, they kind of stay in play for the Sea Giant discount. Hunterace is going to coin out the sneak early, and that means that Abusive Sergeant can't be strapped onto that Argent Squire in value trade.
Yeah.
The sneak is there to buy the initiative because of the stealth. It's such a clever inclusion.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, the way he explained it was basically the fact that you have the option to keep it in stealth, to force your opponent to play more minions, to make Rabble Bounce or Mind Control Tech better, or they try and consolidate their board, which means that they're putting on less pressure. So we're one piece away.
It's Mind Control Tech. It's good almost no matter how you slice it.
Engaging TC-130
This looks good to me. That's just smart deck building. Oh, the Knife Juggler Saturday Night Taskmaster is kind of fun. The opposing one, that is.
Ah, you get a minion. You get a juggle. But is that the most efficient trade? I think it is because you get to keep a 2-1 around with the... Oh, that's super interesting.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
Well, that's not where A8 wants us to go right now. He wants to battle for board. This is twice now he's got a juggle
Now,
that has changed the landscape.
One of the things is he's going to get a minion from this. If he doesn't trade in his Serenade Taskmaster and just plays Mekaru, Hunterace can go Rabble Bouncer into Mind Control Tech.
Oh my gosh, you're right. And so A8 wanted the highest chance to juggle a minion there and then trade into the one that was unopposed. He's going to go face.
Oh, he's thinking about it.
Oh my.
Rabble Bouncer plus Mind Control Tech is a massive swing.
This is a trade every time, and the reason why is to protect the juggler. That's a greedy attack, I think, from A8, because protecting the juggler can be a big difference here. Protecting the Knife Juggler can be a huge difference. Rabble Bouncer comes down for a single point of mana. Trade off the 0-3.
Mind Control Tech.
This could be massive.
I mean, it's massive no matter which way it goes.
And you kill the juggler, of course.
And with a Dragon plus Scale Worm in hand, he even has a way to answer Sea Giant.
Indeed. I think Hunterace just took firm control and is now far and away in the lead of this game.
And Sea Giant, there's no way this turn to get it down to 1 mana, unfortunately.
Well, you have Magic Carpet and then Sea Giant.
1 mana away.
I wonder.
From the juice.
With Magic Carpet and the Sea... if you don't play the Sea Giant now, it's never coming down.
Yep. And Hunterace, very confident in his ability to win the late game.
So save the Magic Carpet, just play the Sea Giant. Get in a life tap while you can. You're going to need some more cards.
Yep. Now, Hunterace also has a different plan of Dragon Maw Scorcher isolate the board.
Oh, boy.
But now you kill the Sea Giant.
Look, your opponent just played an 8-8 and you could kill it. Just kill it.
Yeah. Don't listen to me.
Don't listen to TJ.
I'm dumb.
Somebody shut that TJ up. Yeah, and for Hunterace here, who cares about that opposing life total? You chip away at the board. Look at that hand of yours. Where on earth are you going to lose control of this right now?
A8 looks like he's about to lose his 3rd game in a row with Zoo Warlock. I can't think of a single scenario.
It's a bunch of Knife Juggler nonsense.
He has to outmuster Hunterace's deck, which is... honestly, it's built for the mid-game. Like, it just plays big stuff after big stuff.
There are some weird things that can happen, though. Well, you're going to quickly start to eliminate those weird things that can happen because Hunterace is about to have the turn. Wow. 4 7-drops incoming. If they were all Baron Geddons, that would be bad, but they are not.
Archvillain Reform! It's
the irony! A8 concedes and Hunterace moves out of the group after going down 2-0 and finds himself in the top 8 of the World Championship.